You check on Twitter, see if that one's up yet.
All right. Yep, we're good on Twitter.
Twitter's up.
Twitter's up.
Very good. All right. And YouTube's up, and of course, Facebook's not wanting to work again. Imagine that. All right. Very good. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. What is up, everybody? Thank you for joining us here on the Welcome Home Podcast. I am your host, Famously Garnet, and I'm joined by my co-host Q.
What it do, y'all? What it do?
And in today's episode, we bring in AJ from College Baseball Central, a Gamecock fan, a Gamecock grad, to break down this upcoming series against the Clemson Tigers and how South Carolina got to 9-0. AJ, welcome to the show, my guy.
Welcome,
Yeah,
brother.
couldn't be a bigger week to hop on, honestly.
Yeah.
Honestly, man.
Hey, man. That's how we do it, man. That's how we do it. So, AJ, talk to us a little bit about yourself, your background and stuff, and how you got to CBC as well.
Yeah, so played baseball in college at a D3 school called Rhodes. Loved the game, and then went law school route at South Carolina. Grew up a Gamecock fan from Charleston, and then when I was there, um, Noah Noah Darling, head of College Baseball Central, he was kind of recruiting people to write and help cover. And being a student at South Carolina, I was like, okay, I can go to these games on a pretty regular basis. Didn't necessarily even cover as credentialed media for the first year, um, but did that. Had a great time, and following the team, even though it wasn't the most successful stretch. COVID interrupts, and then it kind of gets more difficult. And then it's like, okay, I want to kind of take this to the next level. Do you have an interest in pursuing stuff from the media side of things? Going and participating in press conferences, asking questions, conducting player interviews. And I'm like, absolutely. Like, I love the game. I love to be around the game. If I wasn't going to play or coach, then I wanted to cover the sport from this side. And so, you know, at South Carolina, that's the hotbed for college baseball. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's probably one of the few states where college sports are definitely above pro sports, because there aren't really many pro teams in the Carolinas that people care about year round. Like, yes, there's the Panthers, but we've all know how they've been the past couple of years. Carolina Hurricanes, like, hockey's not too big down south. And a lot of people growing up in South Carolina, it's either you're Clemson through and through or you're South Carolina through and through. And just the markets there are tremendous, and the fan bases are incredible and electric. The environments are unbeatable, and wanted to be able to cover the sport and cover my team with the passion that I felt like they deserved, um, and not have any selfish motives, and just like try to show what I see and promote the players, not try to profit on anybody like that, because there's a lot of that around South Carolina at the time when I was there. The people in it for the wrong reasons, and that really bothered me. That really rubbed me the wrong way. Um, and so I was kind of in it for Noah to help grow his brand, because it is his brand. He's letting me be a part of his brand. I'm here to help him. Um, but also for the players and the coaches. Like, I want to tell their stories. I want to, highlight them when they're doing well. I'm not trying to bring anybody down. I'm not trying to say fire anybody like that. It's, anytime there's a bad story, there's a silver lining to everything. You know, South Carolina season last year, horrible. Cole Messina, fantastic. Ethan Petrie's coming back. We got guys who can definitely improve off of last year, guys who have. And so it's all about highlighting that, and, you know, trying to give fans what they would want to see out of their team, and actual insight that's not, fear mongering or rage baiting. I'm not into stuff like that.
Man, he sounds like us. Sounds like us, FG. It's
Yeah.
word for word, bro. Word for word, bar for bar. That's us, bro. Uh,
Yeah.
that's one of the reasons why we want to bring that kind of thing to this platform, bro. Like, as you know, AJ, you've seen what we've done, and like Sin, as one of your coworkers, Sin is the first person that brought this to me and FG, and we're trying to do the same thing. And I think that that's the dopest part about it, is having fans have something that they're like, okay, these guys are like us.
Yeah.
They just have the passion for, our school. They have the passion for our teams, and we're able to see, from a whole different standpoint, a whole different point of view. So I think that's dope. Fun fact though, AJ, me and FG actually played baseball together in Columbia as little kids, bro. That was dope. So that was dope. That's dope. So
Yeah.
we've always grown up on the baseball side of it. So you came from D3.
Mm-hmm.
What did you see the difference when playing the sport and then getting to watch it at the D1 level? when you got done playing, you got to watch it the way you do with South Carolina?
Yeah, so I think the first thing is, at a school like South Carolina where baseball is at, the standard is so much higher that there's a lot more where it's like across the board, people are holding themselves and their teammates accountable. Not that that didn't happen at my school, but it was, you had people who would, kind of take days or games off here or there, and no one really hold them accountable. But you can definitely tell, and this happens at D1 too. Like there are really talented teams that don't have the leadership or the work ethic and no one to hold them accountable. And so you see those teams struggle, even though you look at the talent, you're like, okay, that guy should be a first rounder, that guy should be top 3 rounds. They have a bunch of veteran leadership, but until you actually like peek behind the curtain, what does that leadership look like? And from what I've been able to see with, looking inside different programs, talking to different guys, sometimes, the image you see on the outside of a program, people playing hard during the game, well, the practices maybe aren't up to a certain quality, or, the guys aren't putting in the work behind the scenes, or, it's hard to fake that intensity or have that intensity be genuine just during the games. And at successful programs at the D1 level, it's never just during the games. And you're not getting like the fake, the Twitter suns, like after they won in the playoffs, like they're doing the workout on social media. Like that's not real either. It's the true dedication of like, how do I get my body in better shape over the summer? What do I need to do? Do I actually go and play ball because I need to get reps? Or do I need to take care of my body because that I wasn't healthy last year, and that's my priority, and I can help this team only being healthy? Do I need to change my body because I'm changing positions? Do I need to, reinforce a certain part of my game? Do I need to work on something specific with certain coaches? There's so much that goes into it. And at South Carolina, their guys are just set up for success. Like all the resources are there. It is unreal how much they want to succeed, not just the players, but the coaches and the entire fan base around them. And so that kind of puts pressure on guys. And it's also like, how do these guys deal with the pressure? Because that's something at D3 level. It's all like personal, like the pressure is like, am I going to be in the lineup? Or like, is my coach going to think that I can't do this? Where at a school like South Carolina, the pressure is, I'll have fans like wanting to say like, kick me off scholarship or leave or transfer if I don't play up to what they think I should be playing up to, regardless of what the coaches think, regardless of what the players think. At a sport that you're destined to fail more than you succeed, it's really emotionally draining for those guys when they're not succeeding. And it's, seeing the clubhouse culture is probably, so I guess to finally answer the question, how tight knit these guys are and how much it actually is like a family, because you have to be there for those guys because everyone's going to fail. Everyone needs to pick each other up. That is probably the biggest difference is, at this South Carolina team, I don't doubt that every single guy on that roster is there for anyone else, no matter what's going on, no matter if you're in an over stretch, no matter if you can't stop hitting the ball 115, you got guys there to pick you up. It's a tight knit family there.
I love that. I do love that. And so you mentioned something earlier, which I thought that was key, because when you look at last year's team, which so there's good and bad, like you said, with last year's team, and I also want to bring up um the team that lost to Florida in the Supers. So those are two teams I really want to like bank on, really want to hone in on. Last year's team, I think the biggest issue was one thing was always inconsistent, even when other things weren't. So when you're watching the games, there were times where we were good at hitting, like we were raking,
Mhm.
but pitching would always put us back, and so now we're in a bad predicament, i.e., the LSU game where I felt like we really had a chance to really win the SEC title last year, and LSU literally out of nowhere just it was like a curse. Like it was bound for them to come back. Or pitching was doing their part,
Mhm.
and now Ethan Petrie's 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts, and Messina can't get a ball to stay or to leave the park. And there were so many inconsistencies. Whereas when you look at this year's team, you see a lot more like level headedness, like a lot more like I haven't seen, which Becker's one of my favorite pitchers. I always tell him all the time it's time to go. Like every time he's about to pitch, time to go, bro. I see a lot more level headedness. Like no matter what the situation is, you see him more level headed than he was last year. Because I felt like once he was frustrated last year, like it showed. Ty Good was another one of my favorites of all time too. Me and Ty still talk to this day. Struggled when he got frustrated. It was a struggle. So, what do you think was attributed to those two different things right there?
Yeah, so I think a big part of that, especially from the pitching side, is the one thing that was consistently inconsistent was the defense. And
That's
there
true.
were so many times where, the pitcher would make a pitch and get what should be, an inning end double play, or get a, you know, routine ground ball play you should make, and then that play wasn't made. And so then the pitchers are going up there thinking, okay, and this wouldn't happen just occasionally. It's happened pretty frequently. And it wasn't, one or two guys. It was kind of a general
Mm-hmm.
across the entire defense. It wasn't a very fundamentally sound defensive team last year. Um, obviously errors are going to happen, but they were kind of happening at the rate where the pitchers felt like they had to be perfect. And for a large part, they kind of did. It was either strikeouts or weak fly balls. Anything hit on the ground, you kind of were holding your breath, hoping that you get a Sunday hop. Um, and so it was from that, comparing that as a source of frustration. Like the hitting slumps are going to happen. You're going to run into a hot
Right.
arm. That's going to happen. I don't think we've seen it too much yet that we really can't blame on the weather. Even when early on in the year when we're playing Sacred Heart and it's like, okay, we got guys barreling balls up, but they're right at people. Like basically through the Winthrop game, that's how that kind of felt. And then the Milwaukee series, it was like, okay, we're starting to find more gaps. And then, we saw last night just kind of or 2 nights ago, the floodgates open and balls leaving the ballpark because it's finally 70 degrees outside.
Mm-hmm.
And so the offense, I'm not too worried about. There's also more depth offensively, defensively, and across the pitching staff to where it's not like guys feel like it's either me or I don't have anybody behind me I can trust. And
Mm-hmm.
you'll never talk to Ty Good and have him say, "Yeah, I didn't trust the guy behind me,"
Yeah.
because you're supposed to. You have to. It's your teammate.
Yep.
But he's on the mound, and when he's being pushed multiple times, 4 or 5 innings in relief, that's for a reason. That's because there's not the depth over a weekend to have him be able to go and throw two and fill in those innings later on in the weekend.
That's
That
true.
this year, I do not see that as a problem, especially now. Like we have Matthew Becker, who is locked in. I loved watching. I hated to see Sun mess with ball in right field and Dalton Mayshore dropped that, and that run came around and scored. But I loved Becker's
Yeah.
response to just get pissed off and lock in and not let it bother him.
Bingo.
I loved Jake McCoy. He gave up the 3-run bomb. Jake McCoy of last year would have walked the next guy on 4 pitches,
You
trying to
already know.
trying to
You
blow
already
the
know.
next guy
Yeah.
away.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
this Jake just locked back in, and that was the only flaw in his outing. And that's what I need to see. Dylan Eskew, a couple different times, he got in trouble opening weekend and worked himself out of it. Whereas last year, it felt like that's when dam would break. He'd get guys on, hit by pitch, walk, and then blooper. All of a sudden, that's 2 runs in the big inning right there. That hasn't happened yet. Not saying it won't eventually happen because you're going to run into good offenses, and pitching is not a perfect art, but level-headedness, like you were saying, that there's depth that they can actually trust, and I think those are two huge things, just to create a consistent product. Because even you were talking about the Florida Super Regional team, the team was incredibly talented,
Incredibly.
but they were
Incredibly.
you lose a couple key guys, and it was like, okay, we lose Noah Hall for the year. That is a huge blow, and there wasn't really anyone to step up and fill that gap. James Hicks did a fantastic job, but then his role was kind of vacated. Will McGillis at second base, losing him. I still maintain that if we had a healthy Will McGillis, you're a top 8 seed easy. because
Oh
it
my
was
God, yes. Oh
he
my God,
he
yes.
was unbelievable. But I just the depth of this year. Not saying I want to lose anybody, but if somebody does go down, like if SQ's not able to go this next weekend or this upcoming weekend on Sunday, I trust that there's viable options to step in there and fill that role, and me not have to think, okay, it's a bullpen game on Sunday. I think that would have been the case the past couple of years.
I agree with that. I 100% agree with that. And I'm glad you brought up defense because I was definitely going to that. I love Lee Croy. I love Thomas Lee Croy. But you could see how uncomfortable he was last year playing third. And KJ this year, like, it was crazy because it was kind of like it eased my mind the first game. Like, he gets one right on the first game. And, like, the play, because, everybody's like, oh, crap, it's that third. Like, what? Is this person going to – is he going to get to the first? And you've seen the progression because, to me, Paul has always been about fundamentals.
Mm-hmm.
That has always been Paul's key. That's how he won a championship. That's why he has the most wins active in college baseball right now. He's always been about fundamentals, and defense was at the top of the list when it comes to fundamentals. And you're starting to see that a lot, even out of younger guys. So what have you seen different in this offseason when you bring in guys like KJ, those young pitchers, those freshman pitchers that are getting a couple innings here and there? What have you seen with them and their mindset that has come in to pair with who you have now?
Yeah, so it was a lot about filling your roster with guys who can contribute right away. Because Paul's big thing is school like South Carolina. I'm not playing to win in 2 to 3 years. Like I'm playing to win now. So I'm going to go bring in guys who can help now. I'm going to go bring in a Nathan Hall in center field, who he believes, and I think rightfully so, can be a very high draft pick, playing up to his potential. We've seen it this year. He's
Mm-hmm.
an electric leadoff guy, great defensive center fielder as well. Dalton Mayshore in right field, you know, reliable bat, good right fielder. Um, Henry Kazmar at short. I It legitimately surprises me when a ball gets hit to short and isn't fielded cleanly, and that's such a refreshing feeling
So
of just
refreshing.
like
Yeah.
you just think it's a vacuum over there, like because that's what he has been. He's made some unreal plays. Nolan Naraki at second. It's like I trust a ball hit to second. No knock on Parker Nolan last year because he was kind of playing out of position. But there were times last year it was like you're just waiting for the shoe to drop, you're waiting for the air to come, and it feels like that's entirely opposite. And I know it's because of the work they've been putting in. I know it's been emphasized that hey, Paul's only going to play guys that play his brand and play hard enough and earn the right to be on that field. And there were guys who were cut from the team who absolutely had the stuff to play but didn't have the mentality to play. And Paul is very big on, you know, he's there to coach you. Terry Rooney is there to coach you. Monty Lee is there to coach you. If you're not wanting to be coached, then they're not going to keep you around for someone who doesn't want to be coached. There's no one who's bigger than this program. There's no one who's has any extra benefits or they have a certain name so they can go and get away with certain things. That's not there. And I really enjoy watching this team play because I know that everyone's playing hard and everyone on that field has earned it. And you don't have guys like Jordan Carrion stick around. They didn't play at all last year because he had the waiver issue that the NCAA just wouldn't let him be eligible. Thought it was complete BS. But he could have gone somewhere else. Free transfer rule. He could have gone, new head coach coming in. Like, what does he have to prove? Well, he's been working his butt off for the not only all of last year but all of this fall to make a team. He hasn't seen a live game speed pitch in like 2 years, and then to continue to put in that work, that's respected. He gets, he puts the work in, and it's the roster is full of a bunch of guys who put the work in. Evan Stone's not on the roster because he likes the Gamecocks and would do anything for him. He's on the roster because he works and can contribute. There's no charity roster positions anymore. Roster too small for that. You don't have the ability to have 4 or 5 guys you're just not going to play. Everyone on this roster will play in some capacity, and I believe in what Paul is doing to the point where I trust those guys to come through in basically any situation and hold their own.
Yeah, yeah, and with the depth that South Carolina has this season, I mean, it just shows. And you look at this batting order right now, what these guys are batting. AJ, over 400s through 9 games, I mean, is insane. You got Nolan Naraki, Clemson transfer at 350. I mean, you've got guys hitting the damn near cover off the ball, and they're doing these in these situational moments, right? It's not, home run every at bat. It's, taking care of business where you need to. And I mean, this is fantastic. I mean, this is, like I said, everything has been great from South Carolina so far this season, and that's leading up to a big weekend in college baseball against Clemson. And looking at Clemson, they've only lost one game this season,
Ha!
but
And a loss. Ha! Imagine
but
that.
but have they played to their full potential yet?
I think it's hard to look at that team and look at what Aiden Kanak can do on the mound, what he did last year, and look at how he's thrown this year. Isn't up to his standard. Um, and I can't look at that. Clemson's team I think only hit 6 home runs as a team so far. Cam Canarella's hitting around 260 with no homers. So no, they have not played up to their potential. Um, there's a lot of things that can go and play with that. Playing in a preseason tournament on the road in MLB Park, playing cold weather Clemson, against opponents that you frankly should be running off the field. Sometimes it gets frustrating when you're not doing that, and then you push, and then the only reason you're kind of winning is you're taking advantage of their pitching, and your pitching isn't exactly holding up. Um, they've had guys step up for them that have been tremendous. Reed Garris, Drew Titsworth, Ethan Darden. That they have guys on the mound who have been performing, so it's not like the pitching staff has been a no-show. And they have offensive guys who've been performing as well. Some of the new transfers coming in. Eric Bakich is big on bringing in some of his older Michigan guys who've played a lot of ball. So it'll be interesting to see, who shows up, who's level-headed. Because you can play 4 years of ball at Michigan, you probably don't experience anything like what you see at a South Carolina Clemson series. Even at home, like that environment as a Clemson player at Clemson will be electric. And I always wonder about the young guys and the guys who haven't experienced it firsthand, actually being on the field, handling that pressure and handling that adrenaline on both sides of the ball.
Mm-hmm. That's a factual statement, guys. Like that's where the freshmen and what they're going to be able to do kind of worries me. KJ's been great, but when KJ's about to play in on Friday, he has not played in yet.
Mhm.
And I mean, that's the same for these pitchers that come in. So I do agree with you. When you're looking at advantages and you're going down, if we're looking at, from catcher all the way down to pitching, and when I say pitching, starting in bullpen, I'm not going to go too deep into it. What do you look at advantage, for Carolina and advantage for Clemson?
So I would say a high-end pitching talent. I think Clemson has it with Aiden Kanak. I think he's a true Friday night guy. I think he has true swing and miss stuff, even if we haven't seen it yet this year. They have a couple other guys with electric arms that have been in the moment before, and that's kind of the big differentiating factor for me. I think Jake McCoy has a very live arm, but there's a big difference, throwing an inning when you're losing in a rivalry game, you know, pretty big, and you've already lost one game versus starting what could be either to even the series or to win the series, that second neutral site game in Greenville. Um, and then there's, like you said, KJ, the guys who haven't been there before. I I truly think that the advantage for South Carolina is the depth they have across their entire pitching staff. Where if some guy goes down, if some guy goes shorter, it's not like oh crap, well I guess we're just giving up on Sunday now. That I think that exists for South Carolina. Um, Clemson, I don't think they have the proven arms yet this season that have been able to be successful that they would trust to go out there now. Um, I think Clemson's lineup probably has a bit more just general hitability to where if the ball's not leaving the ballpark, it's a bad weather day, wind's blowing in. Um, they're, they're not reliant on the home run ball. Um, I think South Carolina at times historically has been more reliant on the homer. We haven't seen that as much this year. Um, I think situational hitting South Carolina's been more successful this year than Clemson. Um, I think avoiding the big innings, South Carolina's been more successful than Clemson. Um, but I think what you have to be aware of with an Eric Bakich coach team is they're gonna be really good in the fundamentals as well, and they're gonna have a couple different things set up to track you or trap you and trick you if you're not paying attention. We've seen the hidden ball tricks. We've
Mm-hmm.
seen the multiple pickoff plays. It's an Eric Bakich coach team. They're going to be scrappy. They're going to play hard. They're not going to give up. So if you rest on your laurels, you take a lead on them. We've seen them have insane comebacks multiple times over the past couple of years, and that's because they don't stop at the plate. They don't give away at bats. So you can't give away at bats, and you can't give them free bases. So we've seen South Carolina a couple times this year. You know, a walk to lead off an inning. Can't do that. Absolutely cannot do that with this lineup. They'll hit and run behind you. So it's honestly two very, very well coached teams.
Mm-hmm.
That's even across the board in terms of, I think, the level of preparation. I think if you look for an edge for South Carolina, it's the depth on the pitching staff. And if you look for an edge for Clemson, it's the experience, depth in the lineup, and maybe the top end pitching talent. But talent has to show up and produce.
Mm. I like that. I like that a lot. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, look, South Carolina's pitching to me, and as AJ you've already said, it's just light years difference from this year, mentality wise. I mean, you looked at like, for example, Tyler Pitzer, right? Guy came in a rough spot, against I believe it was Milwaukee, right? Came in, shut him down, man, and only gave up one run off of that, off of bases loaded, no outs, man. That's impressive. You know what I
Yep.
mean? That mentality probably would not have been the same last season. Let's call it how it is. So seeing things like that and seeing what his bullpen is truly working towards with Terry Rooney is absolutely phenomenal. I think South Carolina is truly headed in the right direction there. And another thing too, man, Clemson is pretty banged up in the bullpen. That is something that a lot of people aren't talking about enough about. If you look at it, they've got quite a list of guys out there that, for one, aren't going to be playing this week, and two, maybe doubtful too. So something to keep an eye out there, of course. My thing for you, AJ, obviously you had Nolan Naraki and Nathan Hall come from, Clemson. Do you think the grass, after the series, do you think the grass is going to be greener on the other side?
I do, partially because one of the fields has a warning track and one of them doesn't, and that always really bothers me. Like, it's baseball; you should have a warning track, not just a random slope up in front of the fence. I'll never understand that. I'll also never understand a Cajun cafe in a part of the country that has nothing to do with being Cajun.
That's fair.
Yeah,
I,
no,
I,
It's
I
a fair
don't
no.
point.
understand that. That's
It's a
you're in
fair
the
point.
Piedmont. You're not exactly um, Cajun in any way. Um, but I do think, regardless of how the season turns out, like being completely honest and transparent, the opportunities that Nathan Hall and Nolan Rocky have gotten and taken advantage of this year, I don't know if they'd be offered those opportunities at Clemson. I don't know if Nolan would have been the starting second baseman. I don't know if Nathan would not have been the starting center fielder. I don't know if he would have been a corner guy. Um, but for those two guys to kind of have their coming out party this year and kind of be able to play and play free and show what they can do, I think regardless of how this series turns out for them, the grass is greener for them.
I
Um,
agree.
Nathan Hall has finally gotten to show his tools and is playing up to his potential. And the Rockies, he was banged up a little, during the preseason. So he's still probably trying to shake off a little bit of rust that he wish he would have gotten more reps. But we've seen great at bats from him. Honestly, the point this year where I was like, this team can be different than the past years was Sacred Heart, game one. Nolan Araki down to two strikes. And instead of striking out, he drives in the guy on third, less than two outs. And I'm like, how many times last year did you get a guy on third with one out and it was a fly ball to the infield
Dear
or a
God.
strikeout, and then
Dear
you're
God.
like, again. And, it was, one instance. There are going to be times where we'll have guys strike out there. But it was the point where I was like, okay, this approach was different. I could see him go, I'm not trying to hit a 400-foot bomb. I'm either trying to hit a deep enough fly ball, or I'm going to try to hit a ground ball to the middle infield and get that guy in. So I think that these two guys know how to play the game. And I think they're actually letting their tools and athleticism and natural ability take over.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that, bro. And when I think back to last year too, like the amount of times Cole Messina saved us, like he should be in the Hall of Fame yesterday. He saved you from getting knocked out in 3 games up in North Carolina. He saved you there when he did a 2-run bomb, and it's just like I wish Cole could have been on a team like this
Yep.
because Cole on a team like this, like pushes them up to a different level, and bring with his experience and his tools and everything. But man, I have got to give props where it is. Lee Corey has shown some serious girth back there at catcher, bro. He's
Yeah.
shown some tools back there, man. I've been impressed with him, bro.
I mean, this was a guy who he came in, and you come into the same class as Cole Messina, and Cole's going to catch. And you're also both sitting behind, Colin Burgess, who had kind of the catcher's job locked up. And it was
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, Colin goes. Um, who do you have? You have Cole Messina, a healthy Cole Messina, and Talmadge. And, you know, Talmadge went, okay, I realized that I'm not going to catch in this situation. I'm just not. And he wasn't content with, being the backup to catch midweeks and occasionally fill in, a late inning blowout. He wanted to be on the field. So he tried to go, take over that third base role. And, selfless, wants to get on the field, wants to help the team, and spends all of his time over there. That goes how that goes. And then it's, okay, Pulmonary calls him in and was like, I've seen enough of you over there. Move you back to catcher. Like, this guy hasn't really caught for an entire season. And then to step back there and do the job that he's doing
Man,
is incredibly impressive.
man.
Yeah, I understand the bat's a little behind right now, but how he's helping that pitching staff, how he's controlling the run game behind the plate. Not too many pass balls. I don't think he's had one yet.
I don't think he
Um,
has. Knock
I
on
think
wood.
think there might have been a couple wild pitches, but nothing where you look at him and you're like, what are we doing there, guy?
Yeah, no.
And there were, I was talking to somebody who worked with Cole on his swing, um, one of his old coaches, and I was saying, like, Cole deserves to be on a team like this. I think there were certain things that you know teams previously didn't have that Cole deserved to be a part of. With Cole's leadership ability, like him having to carry a team at times wasn't fair to him.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he had the personality and the ability to do so, but it wasn't fair to him. He deserved to play on a team like this. Like I said the same thing about Jack Mahoney too. Like, those two guys deserve to be on teams like this.
100%.
Um,
100%.
but at the same time, when I'm saying that and looking at a team like this, that's a huge compliment to the team we have now.
Mm-hmm.
Of, I want the guys who were the better players on teams that didn't achieve what they wanted to be able to play on a team like this, because I think those teams, I think this team can achieve whatever it wants to because of how they play the game and how much they care for each other.
And I think that's the biggest thing for me right now. When I look like past this series, I look at in general when you put Paul down there at what was it 12? They put us at 12
I think it was, I think it was
or 14. It was
14.
something. Yeah,
Yeah, it
14.
might have been 15.
And Paul saw that and was like, "We're not going to be at that spot." I knew then that's what I needed to see. That was, to me, that was my Ray Tanner moment. That had Ray written all over it. Because when me and FG were there, you're talking about we saw Ray Tanner at his best, man. Like, Ray was in there and he was cooking it up. And now to see Paul come in here and do that, I've always said this 150 times. We are a blue blood in baseball. Like, we are a blue blood in baseball. And it's time to get back to that. And now you have a coach who understands, I know the standard and the blue bloodness of this program. My goal is to get us right back to where they expect to be, which is Omaha. The goal is to get back to Omaha. The goal is to get back to be that guy in Omaha. And I feel like that's why Paul has shown that. Paul has shown, like, this is what we're going to bring to the table.
Yeah, and he also does it in a way that's not like telling the players my expectation is Omaha. He has banned the word Omaha from the clubhouse. You can't talk about
Uh,
that. The only thing you can do is talk about the next game, the game we're playing either tomorrow,
Ray Tanner
because
2.0, baby.
and it's so
yeah.
refreshing because the players can look at that and hear it from someone who has been there, who has been to the mountaintop, who knows what it takes, and who has coached teams that have been undervalued and
Yep.
underappreciated and overachieved from what everyone else thought because those guys aren't in the building. And that's what a lot of outside media, with a lot of people who had them, ranked 15 out of 16 in the SEC. D1 baseball, I think that's where they had South Carolina ranked in the SEC. Um, those guys aren't in the building. Those guys aren't in Texas A&M's building. Yeah, you go and watch games, but you don't go behind the scenes. You don't go and see, you know, the team that you look at and say, okay, they have the most talent, most proven. Yes, like Texas A&M on the face does. There's a lot there that was just kind of brushed aside as like, oh, it'll be fine. You lose your head coach. He goes to your rival. You have guys who achieved at an incredibly impressive rate. You also had guys like Evan Oschenbeck who were plugging holes for you and maybe didn't show some of the weaknesses that you actually had. Well, now that guy's gone. So when you
Mhm.
lose those guys, what does it do to you? Your margin of error shrinks. You look at South Carolina, and it's assumed that, oh, Cole Messina's gone. That's a leader in the clubhouse. Chris Veach is gone. He plugged a ton of holes. Ty Good's gone. He plugged a ton of holes. You know, okay, you get Dylan Eskew back, but he wasn't that good last year. If you sat down and watched the games, there were a lot of times where he received no defensive help and had to do it all by
Oh,
himself.
sure.
Zero.
Sure.
And,
Zero.
and then you go and
Yeah.
look back at the stats, and statistically, ERA, Dylan Eskew was our best guy last year, and that's with the mistakes. That's with the defensive
Yep.
mistakes. And you got guys put in situations that it was never the same situation twice. And pitchers are very mental to where if you tell them like, hey, you're going to be a starter, and then you all of a sudden tell them 2 weeks later, actually, never mind, this isn't something you did, but we're just going to change that. And then you go next week, go actually you're starting a midweek. That's going to throw them off, and that's kind of what Matthew Becker situation was last year. We've seen him be able to be locked in as a starter, pitched his way into it, earned it, and it's just the clubhouse itself. You can definitely tell they have a chip on their shoulder. They're playing with an edge. Um, they're playing clean. They're playing aggressive, and that combination, I don't want to play them. I wouldn't want my team to play them. These guys aren't going to roll over. These guys aren't going to show up and try to play for themselves and try to boost their own stats. Um, you know, guy on third base, less than 2 outs. We've seen teams and guys try to be like, okay, this is my time to hit a 400-foot bomb. And then you catch one off the end of the bat and it's a flare to the second baseman, or you strike out and don't do anything. Well, hit a fly ball to right field. And don't care if that's opposite field for you. You're not going to hit a bomb, but do a job. We've seen that so much more this year of people just doing a job, pass the baton, just playing the game the right way. And that's been the most refreshing thing. And that's why this team's going to be successful is, Paul's kind of his thing to start the year was SEC games. You're going to win 10, you're going to lose 10. What do you do in the middle 10 to win or lose them? Because you can lose a game easier than you can go win a
Oh
game.
my God, that was beautiful.
Yeah,
That was, man. I've
It's
never
true.
heard that, AJ. That is elite right there, bro. You're gonna win 10, you're gonna lose 10, but what is that middle 10 gonna be? And you, to me, that's why I've always said you can only go as far as your coach. I love using Shane and Lamont in this same token. Yes, Lamont's having a terrible season this year, but at the same time, AJ, he's had 6 games, six,
mhm.
where if guys do half the job of what they're supposed to do, he wins 6 other games.
Yep.
And so that takes 6 losses off of what he has and puts him in the win column. You don't get coaches like that all the time. Shane Beamer. Shane Beamer has a 5-7 season after losing 12 offensive linemen. What does he do? He turns around and has a 9-4 season and a 6-game win streak with the win over his rival.
With the new quarterback.
a young quarterback.
Yep.
So that goes exactly back to what you said before. Everything's about a mentality. Everything's about coaching. Everything's about fundamentals. And now you start to see that in the baseball, because I've always wondered, are we going to get back to that in baseball?
Mm-hmm.
Was I spoiled? Absolutely. It is what it is. I saw the blue blood part, and we're still there. But now, when that hire happened, because I remember I asked Sin, I said, Sin, what do you think about the Paul hire? He was like, dude, we're getting back. Like, I remember Sin was like, bro, we're getting back. We're back. And I was like, are you serious? He's like, dude, go check his resume. I looked up his resume, AJ. I said, dude, we're back. We're so back. And I think that's what you see across the timeline in all our sports. And so that's why I'm glad to hear that from someone who's seen it in the offseason. I'm sure you saw the adjustments these guys have made in the offseason as opposed to previous off seasons. And now we're here. So AJ, tell us, bro, what do you think the series is gonna look like for you, bro? Tell the
Well,
people.
what I think it's going to look like is I think you're going to honestly see a showcase of two really, really talented, really well coached baseball teams. You're going to see two teams that, you know, there are going to be a couple pitches here or there that if they go one way, one team's going to walk away with the series win. If they go another way, the other team's like, it's going to be a very clean, very well played game. Um, I really hope that, there's no unforeseen injuries or something to pop up and really deprive someone of a chance to make their mark on something. Um, I think you're going to see a South Carolina team that, with a new head coach and the players who they're remembering that, hey, we didn't get a home game last year and they beat us on the road and at their place, that we can't count on winning our home game. We can't count on getting back to Columbia and, either winning the series or taking a game, because it's not guaranteed. I think you're going to see a South Carolina team that'll come out aggressive with an approach that will try to have Aiden Kanak be in the zone. He is really effective when he gets you swinging down below the knees. Almost unhittable when that happens. You can throw the fastball high, throw a curveball low, changeup is elite. Um, and if he can get you fishing for that changeup, you're basically done. Um, they saw him last year. Monty Lee saw him last year. Huge thing is he was able to see how he attacked some of his hitters, how he attacked Ethan Petrie, how he attacked some of those guys. Uh, I think you're going to see a well played game on Friday that you'll see some runs in the later innings. It'll be
Mm-hmm.
kind of, you know 2-1, 3-2 up until like the sixth or seventh, and then it wouldn't surprise me to see teams trade, two spot, because both teams have the clutch gene. Both teams have the guy who can come through in the big moment. We've seen Cam Canarella do that time and time again throughout Clemson with their postseason run. He did everything he could to try to get that Clemson team to Omaha last year. Um,
Sure.
we see, Ethan Petrie just coming up clutch. Kennedy Jones has been clutch. Even Talmadge's one hit this year was a clutch 2-run double. Like
Yep.
Yeah.
you got clutch genes on both sides. So I think you're going to kind of see back and forth late, and it's going to kind of be, who out of the pen shows up and bows up. Um, I think South Carolina is going to win the first two. Um, I think Matthew Becker is, he's been in that situation before. He is the guy I want on the mound for South Carolina, someone who's been in the program, someone who knows what this means, someone who's pitched
Agreed.
in the big games and had success. I think Matthew Becker is the perfect pitcher for a lineup that doesn't do too much damage with the long ball. He's a fly ball guy. It's a dangerous pitcher to be a fly ball guy in, but curveball last week was on. He can continue to, mix in that changeup, fastball, holds plane. I think he can frustrate some Clemson hitters and then pass it off to a bullpen that can take it all the way home. I think Jake McCoy at Ford Field is a perfect fit. Um, good luck doing much damage with that guy there. You got the defensive outfield to actually track down some balls. Um, haven't had that the past couple of years. I think that, um, as much as I would like to predict a sweep, I truly think that a game is going to be won by both teams in this series. So I think if Clemson doesn't have to burn their key relievers in game one or game two and can keep some of them for game three, they can have success with that being a bullpen game. And with SQ's status, I'm just not entirely sure. I feel comfortable picking South Carolina to win that. Also knowing that Paul plays for the win for game one, game two in game two. Uh, South Carolina absolutely could sweep. It'll just depend on SQ's health, and hope he wakes up without feeling sore. Um, Hope we got guys who can step in and fill up innings. Pitcher's going to be huge. Marlotte's going to be huge. Um, it's going to be a very, very exciting weekend. I don't think you're going to see a blowout the entire weekend. I think it's going to be three really, really well played games. That you're probably not going to see any team hit double digit runs either. The pitching staffs are both good enough. It would really surprise me if we saw any team hit double digits.
That's kind of where I'm at. I think 2-1. I 100% think 2-1. But I do think we steal Friday. I think we steal Friday. Saturday, I think they get us, and I think Sunday we handle business. Because I think we owe them one here in Cola. So that's how I see it. I see my 2-1 that way. But I like how you thought. But I do think this is going to be my unsung hero. Defense. I think our defense shows up and does a couple things that make you be like you know how you're playing the game and like it's time to sit up and they do something. You're just like you sit up and you're like, all right, we're really in this bad boy. Like an innings going astray, and then like the defense does something that's like, okay, we're here. So I think our defense is the one that's going to shock, and everybody's gonna be like, oh man, our defense was on point. Like we come back and we're like, yo, that defense was there. So that's my unsung hero. But I agree with you. 2-1 Gamecocks.
I like it. I like it. Yeah, I think South Carolina's going to do the same. I think they're kind of rather their cues, man. I think South Carolina's going to possibly, I think they'll hit up at Clemson, and then they'll go to Greenville and Ford Field. Love it or hate it. It's a great facility. It's a great venue, but I just don't think we're going to pull out there. And then game 3 at South Carolina, I'll be there on that one. Can't wait. I think South Carolina, yeah, we're due to take them on again at home. So, yeah, I like 2-1. I don't think there will be a sweep in the series by either team, and it's gonna be a fun one, man. This is what the rivalry is all about. Eric Bakich had some interesting comments coming into this one. So he seems to be a little bit more onto this one than Paul Maneri is. I don't know, but I can tell you this: one guy has a College World Series under their belt, the other one doesn't. So let the resume play out. And at the end of the day, I get it. Clemson fans are going to be spouting out that overall record. As much as they can, right? Clemson has the overall record, yada, yada, yada. We all know who has it in the postseason. That's the only time it matters, right, gentlemen? So
Sure.
it is what it is. It is what it is. We, when these Clemson fans come visiting Founders and Ray Tanner Park, or Ray Tanner Field on Sunday, guess what? Guess what they have to walk by when they walk inside the stadium? 2 nice trophies right there on display. Just to remind you. Back to back.
Back to back.
Back to back.
Could have been a three-peat. That three-peat, man. I would have shed some tears on that three-peat, man. That three-peat would have been a tear.
Schneider.
Yeah, man.
Rob Schneider, man. I tell you what.
I guess before we wrap up, though, AJ, I guess give them a little update on recruiting as far as baseball is concerned too. If you have any nuggets there.
So it's always been interesting with because that's kind of the thing with Paul Maneri, him coming in, him being out of the game, like. He hasn't been keeping tabs on these high school guys that really you have to keep tabs on to be successful in recruiting at this level for 3, 4, 5 years. So that's when, having guys like Monty Lee stick around the program that you've connected with, you built a relationship with like that in and of itself is huge. There are going to be times where, you'll look at it and you'll say, okay, South Carolina has or doesn't have a player on the top 50 coming in, or maybe they have 3 like we saw last year. We have Cole Messina's brother, and you have PJ Morlando, and then you get the number 1 JUCO arm. Well, guess what? None of those 3 guys made it to campus. And in a sport like baseball, recruiting rankings, I almost throw those entirely out the window. Yes, I want to get some guys to campus. There's a reason KJ Scobie was so highly ranked as a recruit.
That boy's good.
Because
good.
He's just good. Bo Hollins.
Yes.
Really highly rated guy. I love how he plays the game. He just needs to see some reps, get up to speed a little bit. Offensively, defensively, he's there.
Yeah.
I love him there.
Oh yeah,
But
we've
there's
seen him. We've seen him for years because my cousin played with him. My
yeah,
little cousin played with him. So yeah,
yeah.
he
And
was. I knew
I
he was
saw the
true.
highlights of him coming through, and then when he was a junior, I was like, can he come to South Carolina now? Can he just show up and at the time, red shirt and just get reps? Like that would have been they would have been able to step on the field right away and contribute. But I mean, we're going to see a lot more of South Carolina being active in the transfer portal and getting those marquee guys who've proven themselves other places.
Sure.
Right now you think of that as schools like LSU or Tennessee, where guys go to visit these schools and have a visit with South Carolina scheduled, and then they never make it to South Carolina because they commit
Right.
to these other schools. South Carolina is gonna hit the transfer portal and hit on those guys. Um, Paul went out this year and did his recruiting, really seeing college guys for the first time in the Cape, and then looking over film and seeing what do I got in these tools, what do I got here. So he goes and he sees, Nolan Naraki and Nathan Hall in the Cape Cod League, and then also scout his own players because he hasn't seen them play before. So he's watching Talmadge and Will Tippett play in the Cape Cod League, and that's the first time he's seen them play in person. So you're actually going to see um, him come through. Max Coffer, same thing. Saw him up there, and
Yeah.
he's like, what this guy isn't. This guy isn't a backup catcher who has one home run. Like he knows Max Coffer is better than that. There's a reason Max is at South Carolina. You don't bring in a backup catcher when you already have a roster size constraint, and he's going to run out of eligibility. He's not here to sit on the bench and to coach your next guy. He's here to play, and so you're going to get a lot of recruits. And with the roster size now, like I was talking to Paul, did an interview with him, and I asked him, how do you manage? You're trying to keep a roster together, going like, hey, this guy can help us in a year. He cannot help us this year. He's not ready, but I know he can be. How do you balance that with, the veteran presence where it's absolutely a lower floor, but he can contribute in a meaningful way this year? And he was kind of like, at where we are, the school I'm at, it's the pieces around me. I need to be able to win right away because that's the standard. I'm not
Yeah.
building. I'm not trying to mortgage the present for the future. I am trying to win now and have guys who can help me win now, and I want to keep them around to win later. I want to be able to win, be super successful, and not have a team of 25 transferred seniors that I lose them all and have to replace every year because you can't win like that. But you're going to see transfers come in and plug positions of immediate need. It's going to continue to hit JUCOs, Jace Warda, Stone,
Oh,
like those guys who can just come in and contribute. And it's, I mean, you're just going to love the roster construction because they're going to be names that you continue to recognize. And then you're going to build around freshmen you keep, like, Zach Russell and Ryder Garino, like two guys who could be absolute dudes.
yeah.
Parker Marlott, you're going to have your guys who continue to be here for a time. But then you're going to bring in guys like, Brennan Sweeney, who it's like, oh, we thought he might be a potential starter depending on how that shapes out. Well, it turns out he's just your closer, and then just you can trust him at the end of a game. Guys who can step in and roll. So we'll see kind of roster construction like we have this year of guys who've had experience get the lion's share of the playing time. And then when you get a guy like KJ Scobie to campus, those are going to be your guys who break through. You're not really going to be relying on, an unproven freshman too often in the transfer portal because with a school like South Carolina, there's no reason not to have guys and depth ready to line up and play.
Agreed.
I love it, man.
Agreed.
I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. You look at that roster, man, of South Carolina right now. They brought a lot of guys. Like we had to sit and break down this season before the season started. And there was only 14, 15 returning guys. Is that right? So I mean, you see it out in the field, and you harped on the guy, Jay Swoda, man, that guy. A lot of teams in the Midwest right now are kicking themselves, so they missed out on him
Yep.
because he's looked fantastic. So it's going to be great, man. The future's fantastic for South Carolina. We got the right guy in there, man, with Paul. I mean, he's fantastic. He's getting back to the winning ways, and from what you said, AJ, it seems like they have the same mentality as Ray did when he coached at Carolina. I had a lot of friends that played at Carolina, man, a lot of guys, and they talked about his mentality and everything else, and it really does seem to just feel the same. Honestly, I mean, I heard the stories from Brady Thomas and Michael Roth and guys like that, and man, it was just like it really does, man. It seems like it's the same. So that's just wild. But it's great to know that, man. It's great to know where the program's heading, the direction, who's behind, Ray as well, or not Ray, excuse me, with Paul. I mean, you have great guy with Monty Lee. Terry Rooney's fantastic. What he's done too, man. I'm stoked for the future, man. I really
For
am.
sure. For
I
sure.
really am.
And I'm glad we're investing in baseball. I'm glad we're throwing the
Yes.
money at it that we need to.
Yes.
I'm extremely excited about that part of it too, because I know it's not in the right now, but I know in the future they're gonna have things because we got a good AD, bro. That AD man, when he ain't locked
Oh,
down with certain policies and procedures, hey, that dude is. He's like, bro, I'm gonna do everything I can to get everything where it needs to be. So, um, definitely. But we appreciate you, AJ, bro. This was huge.
yeah.
Thanks,
Yeah.
bro.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Thanks for letting me talk Gamecock baseball to someone besides my wife, who I'm pretty sure is tired of hearing about it. So
Hey, anytime, bro. We gotta get you and Sin on at the same time, bro. We get this going, bro. I promise you. We definitely plan to do that, especially with SEC play coming around the corner and stuff.
yeah,
I think that'd be good for us to
Yeah.
kind of dive deep into that too. So that's something we're gonna look at doing.
yeah,
Hmm.
talking with Sin is usually getting talked at by Sin, so we'll see how much he lets me have my own opinion.
You already know, dude. We already know. Trust me, we know. Trust me, we know.
Oh man, these are facts. These are facts. I mean, we did the show with Sid for what, a whole year and a half, just about. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
man.
So we hey,
Yeah.
we get it. We do. We get it. Well, AJ, again, man, we appreciate you, joining us, hopping on the show. Let the world know, man, where they can find you on the Twitter world, the X world, if you will.
Yeah, so actually, I'm just going to plug College Baseball Central. Go follow them.
There you
Um,
go.
we have a squad of SEC writers that I manage the written side of things. We got video content coming out for the SEC as well, but it's all of college baseball. We got guys covering the ACC. We got guys covering mid-major teams. Noah, the head of College Baseball Central, he's embarking on a Save the Big Ten tour this year to cover all Big Ten baseball. Um, he has a podcast recording that he does interviews with different coaches called Truck Stop Baseball because Middle America interviewing all those coaches. But yeah, it's actual content from people who love the sport. No paywalls, no anything like that. Um, yeah, absolutely, please come check it out. I guarantee you we cover your favorite team, and if we don't, just let us know and we'll make sure it's handled.
I ain't gonna lie to y'all.
There you
Y'all
go.
better do it, dude. I'm telling y'all, those cats know what they doing over there, dude. They know what they're
Yeah.
doing over there at CBC, bro. I'm telling y'all, I love it over there, bro. I love it over there, dude. Ever since Sin started over there and AJ's been over there, Noah's been great, bro. Very hands on. Dude, that's the best baseball content ever. If I need to know anything about baseball, I know where to go. Anything I need to
Yeah.
know, mid major, power four, anything, dude. I love it. So y'all keep up that work, man. You got us over
Yeah.
here at the welcome home, bro. You got us
Appreciate it.
over here, bro.
Yeah. Yeah. Very very hands on stuff over there, man. Like I said, y'all go check out College Baseball Central, man. They're killing it over there. Guys, we appreciate y'all tuning in live with us at Welcome H Pod on Facebook, X, and YouTube. We appreciate y'all listening at Welcome H Pod on Apple and Spotify. As this episode will drop on Friday morning, the game day between Carolina and Clemson at Doug Kingsmore Stadium. Which, by the way, guys, Doug Kingsmore, I'm just not a fan, man. I'm just not a fan of that stadium. I'm sorry.
You need a
Yeah, I'm
warning
sorry.
track. You need a warning
Yeah,
track.
need a
KGFA
lot.
doesn't make sense.
I
Rename it.
mean, I mean, let's be real, guys. Are we really shocked? It's Clemson. Like, are we really shocked?
And don't get me started on the PA guy, the DJ. Oh, dude, I don't know. I just couldn't do it.
When
I
your
couldn't do it.
soundtrack consists of 80% being a Six Flags commercial from 2005, you need to update yourself.
Oh, it's time.
It's time.
Yeah, it's time, man. But guys, like I said, we appreciate y'all tuning in live at the Welcome Bench Pod on Apple and Spotify. We will see y'all next time.
Peace. Hey, good
All
work,
right,
guys.
AJ.
Man,
Good
AJ,
stuff, man.
good stuff, bro.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, that was fantastic.
Hope you enjoyed yourself, man.
Yeah, yeah. I can. I try to have to cut myself off from rambling now and then because there's a lot up there that you know try not to ramble for 25 minutes about South Carolina pitching because I could.